So, one thing I've been doing at the moment that I find is really, really healing me in many ways is, and when I say healing, I mean healing in terms of letting go of certain things, letting go of fears that I've once held on to. So it's this contemplating your death. Now I noticed when I was in Cambodia, I observed the way that people use social media there. So when you're living in a foreign country for so long, your newsfeed tends to fill out with, the content from that country, and the way they use it in Cambodia is quite different to the way we use it in terms of like showing news and stuff. Some of the stuff that I saw on social media was quite brutal. There were videos of people getting shot. There were videos. I saw a video once of a mum tormenting her child, and people put these stories out, I guess, in Cambodia to build awareness of what's going on in their society, and so I guess that's to the point of building awareness would be so that people can get some sort of help, and people can go and try and help these people in need. The way we do it here in the West, this concept of death is very, it's almost like taboo. You don't really bring it up. It's not something that we talk about that often, and yeah, you don't see it much. You don't hear of it much in Western society, and it's kind of it's something that we don't talk about, and I think that's a result of our fear towards death. We're constantly trying to run away from death, and we have this craving for life, and that's I guess that has some spiritual stance there, and also biological stance you can take there. But we tend to shun death away, and we have this craving for life like this. We're clinging on to life, and we're so attached to it. Going to Cambodia, I think, really opened my eyes in terms of facing death and speaking about it. I remember once being on my way home from work, and there was traffic on a road that there wasn't usually traffic, and I swerved my bike up to what was happening, and I saw this school kid on the floor. He was completely gone, pretty much drowning in a pool of his own blood. He'd hit his head on the curve, and he was just gone. And I didn't get the chance to confirm whether he died or not, but I came to the conclusion that he did, because just going off the facilities in Cambodia, by the time they got him to the hospital and all this stuff, I just thought he's gone, just because of the amount of blood I saw. It was just so much. And so I came to the conclusion that he had passed, and I was really traumatized. I got straight home to my apartment, and I was really restless, and I just couldn't let it go, and it was just constantly on my mind. And luckily I had a friend who was around, and I got to speak about it, and that was part of the healing process. And I woke up the next day and I actually let it go, although I couldn't eat that night, and it was just something that was playing on my mind, and I had this fear that it was going to stick around, and I think that was the worst part. I had the fear that I was going to have mental scarring from seeing something like this, and it was going to stick around, and it was going to start to affect me in my life long term, and that wasn't the case. I was able to let it go, but being around that sort of environment where you're constantly hearing about death, in Cambodia, especially with some of the humanitarian work that I was doing, you would hear about disease, you would hear about a lot of things, and you hear about people dying almost every day, and being confronted with it, I guess, in that sense, really helped me put it into perspective. And then I come back here and I hear about death, and I've experienced a lot of death amongst people my age, or around my age group, in the area that I've grown up in, you know, it really starts to put it all into perspective. And you know, so I've started to contemplate, I guess, on, you know, my own death. Not really thinking about anyone else at the moment, but thinking about, like, you know, if it could be at any time, it could come at any time. I could, you know, you just don't know what's going to happen. The world is like full of all of these possibilities, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And I guess, you know, when you confront it like that, and you think about it like that, and you kind of let go of the fear in a way, you tend to let go of so many other fears that you held on to. And maybe that's because the fear of death is the root cause of a lot of other fears that you feel, you experience in your life. I know, you know, maybe the fear of regret that I have a huge amount of fear of regret with a lot of things I do in my life. And you know, maybe that is a manifestation of, you know, the root cause of, you know, the fear of death. I don't know, I'm still looking into it. But yeah, I feel like the more I think about it, the more I start to appreciate, you know, every second that I have. And the more I want to go out and do, the more I want to go out and sort of achieve and make my stamp on the world. And yeah, you kind of do it with a little less fear. And yeah, I remember hearing about a yogi, an elite yogi, who he said he likes to think of his life as if he was constantly walking around and he had a sword above his head that was attached to string, and that sword followed him everywhere, and that piece of string could snap at any time and he'd be gone. And that's how he likes to, you know, look at his life, or I guess, or live his life, as if there's a sword that could snap at any time. And you think that would bring on more anxiety, but you know, depending on how you look at it, you can also look at it from another angle where, you know, I could go at any time, and there's no point in denying it. There's no point in pushing it down and ignoring the fact that, you know, I could go at any time. So why not just make the most of everything while I'm here, while I'm breathing? So yeah, it's something that I'm still sitting on. I'm still thinking about a lot, and I feel as though ever since I've started to think about it more and start to confront it a bit more, a lot of my fears have just started to subside, I guess. And you start to gain more insight into life as a result as well. But yeah, I'd like to talk about this another time, and yeah, I'd like to share where my journey is, where I am in my journey with the whole thing, with the whole concept. Because I really think it could help a lot of people if they confronted this fear, and you know, went about their lives as if it was, you know, the cliche says, live every day as your last. I don't think, you know, cliches are all, they're true and great, but, you know, they don't really help anyone. So because they're not practical. You know, you hear a cliche and you think to yourself, oh, well, that's easier said than done. So sharing my journey, I hope, can give some insight into actually how to be practical about, you know, doing these things. So yeah.